The second I read Victor's text, my stomach dropped. Your real 24 hours start now. What the hell was that supposed to mean? I looked up slowly at the cameras, the lights, the viewers exploding in chat. Hundreds of thousands of people waiting for me to open the box. And suddenly, it didn't feel fun anymore. It felt dangerous. Jay whispered, "Bro, open it." I swallowed hard, then slowly lifted the lid. Inside the box was a single envelope. That's it. No diamonds, no cash, no crypto wallet. Just one thick black envelope sitting perfectly centered inside the metal box. For a second, the entire studio went dead silent. Then, chat absolutely lost it. "No way! This is a movie! Open the envelope!" My hands were actually shaking. I pulled the envelope out carefully. Heavy paper. My name written on the front. Daniel. Inside was a folded letter and a black credit card. No logo, no bank name, nothing. Just matte black. The studio got even quieter somehow. I unfolded the letter slowly. The first line instantly made my heart start pounding. If you are reading this, it means you understand attention better than money. What the hell? I kept reading. Victor explained that the entire challenge had never been about the box, obviously. It was about leverage, about turning curiosity into value, about seeing opportunity where everyone else saw confusion. Then came the part that changed everything. Attached to the black card was temporary access to a $100,000 business line of credit under Victor's company. $100,000! The room exploded. Jay literally screamed. Chat went completely nuclear. But the letter continued. You now have 24 more hours to turn attention into something real. Not views, not hype, a business. I stared at the paper, trying to process it. Then I reached the final line. If you lose the money, the debt becomes yours. Silence. Complete silence in my brain. Because suddenly, this wasn't internet games anymore. This was real risk. Life-changing risk. I looked at the card again. $100,000. More money than I'd ever seen in my life. And technically, it wasn't even mine. Jay grabbed my shoulders. "Bro, this is insane!" I laughed nervously. "Yeah, dude, I might actually throw up." The live stream numbers kept climbing too. News pages started reposting clips. Big creators reacted live. Even celebrities joined the stream. And right then, I realized something massive. The audience itself was the opportunity. Not the card, not Victor. The audience. Hundreds of thousands of people were emotionally invested now, watching me, rooting for me, curious what happened next. That kind of attention is insanely valuable if you use it correctly. And suddenly, an idea hit me. Fast. I grabbed a whiteboard marker and wrote 3 words huge across the board. Build with me. Jay blinked. What are you thinking? I turned toward the cameras. Everybody keeps asking what I'm going to do with the money. I held up the black card. So here's the deal. The chat slowed instantly. I'm using this to launch a business live in the next 24 hours. Comments exploded. I kept going. No fake guru course, no scam crypto coin, a real business people actually want. The audience loved it immediately because now the stream had evolved again. First mystery, then challenge, now startup speed run. I paced around the studio thinking out loud while viewers brainstormed ideas in chat. And one thing kept repeating over and over. Food delivery for creators. At first I laughed, but the more I thought about it, the smarter it sounded. See, influencers and streamers order insane amounts of food during shoots. Half the creators Jay knew constantly complained about slow apps, wrong orders, missing items. And because I'd done delivery work myself, I understood both sides, drivers and customers. Suddenly, my brain started connecting everything. Audience, content, problem solving, speed. Victor wanted proof I could build leverage into something real? Fine, I'd build something real. That entire night turned into complete startup chaos. We hired freelance developers live on stream, bought a domain name, designed a logo with audience votes, called local drivers, built social pages. The stream became half business launch, half reality show. And weirdly, people became obsessed with it because they weren't watching perfection. They were watching pressure, real pressure. At around 4 a.m., exhausted out of my mind, I stepped outside the studio for air again. And sitting on the curb nearby was the old taco guy from earlier that morning. I genuinely thought I was hallucinating. He looked up at me and smirked. Told you the box wasn't the test. Bro, who was this man? I sat beside him, completely exhausted. Do you know Victor too? The old man chuckled softly. Everybody ambitious in this city eventually hears about Victor Hale. I rubbed my face. What does he actually want from people? The old man looked towards the glowing studio windows. To see who still builds when the excitement wears off. That sentence stuck in my head instantly, because he was right. Anybody can chase hype for a few hours, but building something real? That's different. Then he stood up slowly and nodded towards the studio. You should probably get back in there. I frowned. Why? He smiled. Because your app just crashed.
The second I walked back into the studio, pure chaos. Jay was yelling at 3 developers at once. The live stream chat was spamming, app down, can't place orders, this is a disaster. And on the giant monitor behind them, our website was completely dead. Crashed at 4:17 a.m. Less than 20 hours left on the challenge clock. Perfect. One of the developers looked half asleep and panicked. Too much traffic hit the servers at once. I stared at him. Bro, we barely even launched. He pointed at the analytics screen. 50,000 live visitors. My stomach dropped. The internet had fully locked into the story now. People weren't just watching anymore. They were trying to participate. Creators started tweeting about us. Streamer clips went viral. A huge podcast account reposted the challenge. And somehow, our tiny, rushed app became the center of the internet for one night. But attention means nothing if the product breaks instantly. Victor's words echoed in my head again. Turn attention into something real. Not hype. Real. That pressure hit different now, because suddenly this wasn't content anymore. Real people were downloading the app, real drivers were signing up, real restaurants were messaging us, and I had absolutely no clue what I was doing. At around 5 a.m., we finally got the servers stable again. The second the app reopened, orders started coming in immediately, fast. Mostly snacks and fast food around Dallas, nothing crazy. But every successful order felt huge, like proof this insane idea might actually work. The live stream audience celebrated every delivery like it was the Super Bowl. One guy ordered donuts to another creator live on stream. A streamer tipped a driver $500. People started using the app just to become part of the story. And suddenly, money started moving. Fast. By sunrise, we'd done almost $18,000 in order volume. Not profit, but still, $18,000 in a few hours from an app that technically didn't even exist yesterday. My brain genuinely couldn't process it. Then things got worse again. Of course they did. Because around 8 a.m., a massive delivery app company noticed us, and they were not happy. One of their legal reps emailed threatening trademark violations over our temporary app name. Jay read the email and whispered, "Oh, we're getting cooked." The timing couldn't have been worse. We were exhausted, sleep-deprived, running entirely on caffeine and adrenaline. One developer literally fell asleep sitting upright. Meanwhile, viewers kept climbing. News stations started contacting us. Business pages reacted to the challenge. Even financial TikTok dudes were analyzing me like I was a startup founder.
which felt insane because 24 hours earlier, I was delivering sushi in the rain. Then my phone buzzed. Victor. One text. How do you respond under pressure? That man communicated entirely like a Batman villain. I stared at the message for a long second. Then something clicked. This whole challenge wasn't about business knowledge. It was about adaptability, pressure, decision-making. Most people freeze when chaos hits. Victor wanted to see if I moved forward anyway. So, instead of panicking, I went live again. No hiding, no fake confidence. I explained the legal issue openly to the audience. Then I said, "So, we need a new app name, right now." The chat exploded instantly, thousands of suggestions flying by. Then one comment caught my eye. Quick Bite. Simple, clean, available domain. Boom. Within 30 minutes, we rebranded live on stream while hundreds of thousands watched. And weirdly, people loved being part of the process. The audience stopped feeling like viewers. Now they felt like a community. That changed everything. By noon, restaurants started reaching out directly, asking to join the platform. Local creators promoted us for free because they loved the story. Even investors started emailing. Actual investors. One offered $250K for a small equity percentage. I almost choked reading it. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the finish line yet, because Victor still hadn't said whether I actually passed the challenge. And honestly, I think part of me stopped caring, because somewhere during the chaos, I accidentally found purpose. Not fake motivational speaker purpose, real purpose. Building something, solving problems, creating momentum. That feeling is addictive in a completely different way than money. Then, around 6 p.m., the studio doors opened, and Victor Hale walked in. Everybody went silent instantly, even Jay. Victor slowly looked around the room, the exhausted developers, the empty coffee cups, the live stream setup, the delivery maps moving on screens. Then he looked at me. No smile, no emotion, just observation. Finally, he asked one question. How much did you make?
Victor stood there in complete silence, waiting for my answer. The whole studio felt frozen. Cameras rolling, developers staring, Jay looking like he forgot how breathing works. I swallowed hard and finally answered, "About 43,000 in revenue?" Victor nodded once. "That's all?" "Bro, I almost lost my mind right there." "All?" I repeated. "This app didn't even exist yesterday." Victor slowly walked through the studio looking at the screens. Orders moving, drivers active, customer support messages flooding in. Then he looked back at me. "How much of that revenue is real?" I frowned. "What?" "How much came from people supporting the story versus people who would actually use the product next month?" That question hit like a truck. Because honestly, I didn't know. And deep down, he was right. Hype can fake success temporarily, but real businesses survive after attention fades. Victor crossed his arms. Most people confuse viral moments with value. Silence. Then he pointed toward the live stream cameras. You figured out how to capture attention. Then toward the delivery dashboard. Now the question is whether you can keep it. For a second, nobody spoke. Then Jay suddenly jumped in. "Okay, but respectfully, this is still insanely impressive." Victor actually smiled a little at that. Tiny smile, like 2%. Then he reached into his pocket and handed me another envelope. Inside was a contract, official investment paperwork. My hands literally started shaking reading it. Victor's company wanted to invest $250,000 into QuickBite. Not a loan, an actual investment. My brain stopped functioning. I looked up slowly. "You're serious?" Victor shrugged calmly. "You built momentum under pressure. That's rare."
Then he added, "Most people spend their entire lives waiting for perfect conditions before starting." That line stayed with me forever, because he was right. I spent years stuck thinking I needed more money, more confidence, better timing. Meanwhile, the entire business that changed my life started during 24 hours of complete chaos. Victor walked toward the exit slowly. Before leaving, he stopped beside me and said, "One more thing." I waited. The challenge was never about making $10,000. He looked around the studio one last time. "You figured out how to capture attention." Then he left. Just like that. No dramatic goodbye, no speech. Gone. And honestly, that should have been the end of the story. But real life doesn't end when the cameras stop rolling. Because after the viral challenge faded, things got hard. Really hard. Half the users disappeared after the hype cooled down. We made mistakes, lost money, rebuilt systems. At one point, we nearly ran out of cash completely. Turns out, running a real startup is way less glamorous than social media makes it look. There were months I slept in the office, months I questioned everything, months I genuinely thought we'd fail. But unlike the old version of me, this time I didn't quit. Because now I understood something important. Momentum matters more than confidence. Most successful people aren't fearless. They just move before they feel ready. 3 years later, QuickBite operates in 11 cities. Not nationwide yet, not billionaire status, but real. Actually real. We employ drivers, partner with local restaurants, sponsor creator events. And every once in a while, somebody recognizes me from the original challenge stream. They always ask the same thing too. So what was actually inside the box? And honestly, the funny part is, the box itself was worthless. Just metal and an envelope. Victor could have used a backpack, a cardboard box, a trash bag. Wouldn't have mattered. Because the real value was never the object. It was the opportunity attached to it. That's what changed my life. Not luck, not magic. Opportunity meeting desperation at exactly the right moment. A few months ago, I ran into the old taco guy again, still sitting outside the same taco place. I finally asked him directly, "Who are you?" The old man laughed. Then he said, "I used to work for Victor years ago." Of course he did. I sat beside him smiling. "So you knew the whole time?" He nodded. Then he looked at me carefully and asked, "Do you know why Victor picks broke people for those challenges?" I shrugged. "Because we're desperate?" The old man grinned. "No." Then he pointed at me. "Because broke people know how to move." And honestly, that might have been the smartest thing anybody said to me during that entire crazy story.
Before you go, hit that like button and subscribe for more unbelievable stories just like this one. See you in the next story.